Elvis was 500 miles away when he learned that a mother of three had one dying wish: to hear him sing. What he did next proved that some promises transcend distance, time, and even death. It was November 12, 1975, and Elvis was in the middle of his Las Vegas residency at the International Hotel. He'd just finished his second show of the night and was unwinding in his suite when the phone rang. On the other end was a voice he didn't recognize, a young man named David Chen, who worked as a janitor at St. Mary's Hospital in Dallas, Texas. "Mr. Presley," David said, his voice shaking with nerves. "I know this is crazy, and I don't know how I got your number, but I had to try. There's a lady here at the hospital, and she's dying. Her name is Margaret Sullivan, and she has 3 kids, and all she talks about is you." Elvis, who got dozens of calls like this every month, was about to politely explain that he couldn't help everyone when David said something that stopped him cold. "Sir, she's got maybe 48 hours left. The cancer is everywhere. But she keeps asking her kids to play your records, especially Love Me Tender. She says it's the only thing that takes away her pain." Elvis sat down heavily. There was something about this call that felt different from the usual requests. "Son, how did you get this number?" Elvis asked. "My cousin works for your cousin Billy in Memphis," David explained. "He gave me the number and said maybe, just maybe, you might be able to help. I know it's impossible. I know you're busy, but tell me about Margaret," Elvis said quietly. "She's 34 years old. 3 kids, ages 8, 10, and 12. Her husband died in Vietnam 2 years ago, so she's been raising them alone while fighting the cancer. She worked as a waitress until she got too sick. The kids, they're about to lose the only parent they have left." Elvis closed his eyes. The story hit him in a place that was still raw, the memory of losing his own mother Gladys, and how music had been the only thing that comforted him during those dark days. "David, where exactly is this hospital?" "Dallas, Texas, sir. St. Mary's Medical Center." Elvis looked at his watch. It was 11:30 p.m. in Vegas, which meant it was 1:30 a.m. in Dallas. He was scheduled to perform again the next night, and Dallas was 500 miles away. "David, is Margaret awake right now?" "She doesn't sleep much anymore. The pain keeps her up. Put me on the phone with the nurses station." What Elvis did next was unprecedented in his career. He called Colonel Parker, his manager, and told him to cancel the next night's show. "Elvis, you can't cancel a Vegas show," Colonel protested. "Do you know how much money—" "Colonel, I don't care about the money. I'm going to Dallas." "For one person? Elvis, be reasonable." "Colonel, if it was your mother lying in that hospital bed, wouldn't you want someone to show her kindness in her final hours?" There was a long pause. "What do you need me to do?" At 3 a.m. Vegas time, Elvis was on his private jet heading to Dallas. With him were Charlie Hodge with his guitar, Joe Esposito, his road manager, and Dr. Nick Nikopoulos, who thought Elvis might need medical support for what was going to be an emotionally difficult experience. During the flight, Elvis kept asking questions about Margaret Sullivan. Joe had called ahead and gotten more details from the hospital. "She's been a fan since she was a teenager," Joe reported. "Met her husband at an Elvis concert in 1958. They had their first dance to Love Me Tender. After he died in Vietnam, she said your music was the only thing that reminded her of happy times." Elvis stared out the airplane window at the darkness below. "Joe, what if we're too late? What if she—" "Boss, we're going to make it. And even if she's not conscious when we get there, her kids will know that Elvis Presley cared enough to come." The jet landed in Dallas at 6 a.m. local time. Elvis had called ahead to the hospital, and the staff was waiting, though most of them thought it was an elaborate hoax until they saw him walk through the doors. Dr. Patricia Martinez, Margaret's oncologist, met Elvis in the lobby. "Mr. Presley, I have to warn you. Margaret is very weak. She's been in and out of consciousness for the past day. But when I told her you were coming, she opened her eyes and smiled for the first time in weeks." "How long does she have?" Elvis asked quietly. "Hours. Maybe less. And her children. They've been here all night. They're exhausted, scared, and trying to be brave for their mother." Elvis took a deep breath. "Let's go." Room 314 at St. Mary's Medical Center was small and filled with the quiet beeping of medical equipment. Margaret Sullivan lay in the bed, looking tiny and fragile, surrounded by 3 children who were trying so hard to be strong that it broke Elvis's heart. When Elvis walked into the room, the children, 8-year-old Amy, 10-year-old Michael, and 12-year-old Sarah, looked up in absolute disbelief. "Mom," Sarah whispered, "Elvis is here. Elvis Presley is really here." Margaret opened her eyes slowly, and when she saw Elvis, tears immediately started flowing down her cheeks. "Elvis," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You came." Elvis walked over to her bedside and gently took her hand. "Of course I came, Margaret. I heard you wanted to hear some music." "I know this is silly," Margaret said, struggling to speak. "But could you sing Love Me Tender? It was our wedding song, mine and Robert's. He died in Vietnam, and when I hear that song, I can remember what it felt like to be happy." Elvis felt his throat tighten. "Margaret, it would be my honor." Charlie Hodge quietly set up his guitar in the corner of the small room. Elvis pulled a chair up next to Margaret's bed and began to sing, his voice softer and more tender than it had ever been on any recording. "Love me tender, love me sweet, never let me go." As Elvis sang, something beautiful happened in that tiny hospital room. Margaret's breathing became more peaceful. The children stopped crying and started smiling. Even the nurses who had gathered outside the door were wiping away tears. When the song ended, Margaret looked at Elvis with clarity that surprised everyone. "Thank you," she said. "But I need to ask you for something else. Something more important." "Anything," Elvis said. "My children. They're going to be alone soon. Would you talk to them? Tell them that it's going to be okay? That their daddy and I will always be watching over them." Elvis looked at the 3 children, who were clinging to each other and trying not to cry. "Kids, come here," Elvis said gently. Amy, Michael, and Sarah gathered around Elvis's chair. "Your mama and daddy love you more than anything in this world," Elvis told them. "And that love doesn't stop just because they can't be here with you physically. Every time you hear music, every time you see something beautiful, every time you do something kind for someone else, that's your parents' love working through you." "But I want to make you a promise," Elvis continued. "I'm going to make sure you're taken care of, all 3 of you. College, whatever you need. You're family now." Margaret started crying harder, but these were tears of relief. "Elvis, I can't let you." "Margaret, you're not letting me do anything. I'm choosing to do this because it's right. Because your husband served our country. Because you've been brave and strong. And because these kids deserve every opportunity in the world." What was supposed to be a brief visit turned into 4 hours. Elvis sang song after song for Margaret. Not just his hits, but gospel songs, lullabies, and even songs he made up on the spot about her children. He told stories about his own mother, about missing people you love, about how music can heal hearts even when they're breaking. The children gradually relaxed and started asking Elvis questions about his life, his music, and his mother. The hospital room became a place of warmth and connection instead of sadness and fear. As the morning wore on, Margaret grew weaker, but she was peaceful. Elvis could see that she was ready to let go, but she was fighting to stay because she didn't want to leave her children. "Margaret," Elvis said quietly, "it's okay. Your kids are going to be fine. They're strong like their mama, and they're going to take care of each other." Margaret squeezed Elvis's hand with what little strength she had left. "Will you sing one more song?" she whispered. "Something hopeful?" Elvis thought for a moment, then began singing. "He's got the whole world in his hands," and the children joined in. Their young voices, blending with Elvis's, created a sound so beautiful that patients from other rooms started wheeling themselves into the hallway to listen. Margaret Sullivan passed away peacefully that evening, surrounded by her children, with Elvis holding her hand and humming "Love Me Tender" softly. Her last words were, "Thank you for helping me remember joy." Elvis stayed in Dallas for 3 more days, helping arrange Margaret's funeral and making sure the children were placed with loving relatives. But his involvement didn't end there. True to his promise, Elvis set up a trust fund for all 3 children's education. He stayed in touch with them through letters and phone calls, and they visited Graceland several times over the years. More importantly, he made sure they understood that they were loved and that their parents' sacrifice, both Margaret's battle with cancer and Robert's service in Vietnam, had meaning. Amy Sullivan grew up to become a pediatric nurse, inspired by the care her mother received and the kindness Elvis showed her family. Michael Sullivan became a music teacher, dedicating his life to helping children find joy and healing through music, just as Elvis had done for his family. Sarah Sullivan became a social worker, specializing in helping children who had lost parents, carrying forward the compassion that Elvis had shown during their darkest hour. The story of Elvis's visit to Margaret Sullivan became legendary among hospital staff, but Elvis asked that it be kept private out of respect for the family. It wasn't until after his death in 1977 that the full story became public. Dr. Patricia Martinez, who had been Margaret's oncologist, later said, "I've been a doctor for over 30 years, and I've never seen anything like what happened that day. Elvis didn't just visit a dying patient. He brought hope, dignity, and peace to an entire family during their worst moment." St. Mary's Medical Center established the Margaret Sullivan Memorial Music Therapy Program in 1978, providing live musical performances for terminally ill patients. The program, funded by a donation from Elvis's estate, continues to operate today. David Chen, the janitor who made the original call to Elvis, went on to become a patient advocate, helping connect families in crisis with resources and support. He often tells people, "Sometimes the most important thing you can do is make one phone call for someone who can't make it themselves." The story of Elvis and Margaret Sullivan reminds us that compassion knows no boundaries, not distance, not fame, not time constraints. It shows us that the most meaningful gifts we can give aren't things we buy, but moments of our time, attention, and genuine care during someone's darkest hour. Elvis Presley flew 500 miles, canceled a lucrative Las Vegas show, and spent 4 hours in a hospital room because a dying mother wanted to hear "Love Me Tender" one last time. But what he received in return was immeasurable. He was part of a peaceful death. He helped 3 children through the worst day of their lives, and he proved that fame and success mean nothing unless you use them to lift others up. Margaret Sullivan's final wish was to hear Elvis sing. But Elvis's gift to her was so much more. It was the assurance that her children would be loved and cared for, that her life had meaning, and that even in dying, she could experience joy. And maybe that's the real miracle of that November day in Dallas. Not that Elvis Presley showed kindness to a dying fan, but that in doing so, he helped a mother let go in peace, knowing her children would never be alone. If this incredible story of compassion crossing all boundaries moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear about the power of keeping promises and showing up for others in their darkest moments. What lengths would you go to keep a promise to someone in need? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to ring that notification bell for more amazing true stories about the moments that define our humanity.